Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen, because this may cause some issues in the comment section. EGR blanking plates. EGR systems on diesels. We won't even touch on the petrols because the main issue is diesels. Everyone talks about blanking plates. Should they do them? Shouldn't they do them? You should just turn off your EGR system. Turn the EGR off and you don't have a problem. The amount of times I've seen people say that, the amount of times I've heard people say that, I'm just going to put the 8mm blanking plate in, I'm going to put the one with the 6mm hole in, I'm going to put the one with the 7mm hole in, I'm going to put the one with the 8mm hole in it. Man, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is what I'm talking about. I have one of these. This is actually for a 79 or a 200 series cruiser. Can't tell you what size hole it is without measuring it. I never even looked. I purchased this one for my car, and as you can tell, it's never been in. It's spotless, never been used. I purchased it for my car ages ago, right as I purchased my car, because I thought, hey, everyone's doing this whole EGR blank, and I knew other people that had older diesels who blanked their EGR off completely, had no issue at all. And I just never got around to doing it, cleaned the manifold, all that sort of stuff, and just still never put this in. I'm going to tell you why. Blanking EGRs, are they worth it? Do they make a difference? You know, when you should and shouldn't do it. By the letter of the law, you should never do it. But there is a time and a place for actually blanking off the EGR. If you do have an older diesel, like pre-common rail, blanking off EGRs, and if they do have an EGR, because some of them do, some of them don't, if they do have an EGR, blanking them off probably benefit you. However, I have seen people who've blanked off EGRs and have had issues. People say, well, it's over boosting, all this sort of stuff. I haven't actually seen over boosting issues as a major common issue with blanking off EGRs. However, I have seen pre-detonation, I have seen cracked pistons and all sorts of stuff via blocking off an EGR. Because blocking off an EGR, and I know that this is a little bit of he said, she said sort of crap, and you hear all different sorts of things that, oh, EGRs, you know, it doesn't increase the combustion temperatures. Oh, it does, it doesn't, whatever, whoever you talk to, there's always a different story. But at the end of the day, it does. It increases combustion temperatures slightly. It's not massive, but you're getting a cleaner burn, so therefore you're getting a hotter combustion temperature. You get higher EGTs. And people go, well, how does that work? Because you're introducing hot gases back into the system. But what you're doing is getting less oxygen. So therefore, the less oxygen, it doesn't burn as cleanly. Therefore, you do end up with a slightly lower combustion temperature. On the older diesels, it doesn't make so much of a difference having a slightly higher EGT, because then you can go and get the car tuned and you can get it brought back a little bit to a, you know, a safe sort of EGT temp. We did a lot of tests in the workshop, again with different cars. A lot of them had EGT gauges set up. If not, we put one in, just a probe in, and then ran it round and sussed it out. And most of the time, you blank off the EGR or you put a blanking plate or something along those lines, the EGTs go up. It went hand in hand. That was the cars we tested. Other people may have different results, but most of the cars we tested had that problem. Do they make a massive difference with the decreasing of the soot? Yes. So blanking off the EGR makes a massive difference with decreasing the soot. So I've seen cars with a blanked EGR and a catch can on. They've got like no soot and their engine oil is mostly pretty clean. If they've been serviced quite regularly, they're mostly pretty clean engine oil, and they stay like that throughout the whole 10,000 Ks. With they get a slight tint towards the end. However, on the newer diesels, they are very sensitive to any EGR tampering. So if you're talking about any of the Ford Rangers, the Isuzus, the Toyotas, You tamper with their EGR systems, they are really, really sensitive. So it may be blocked and it still doesn't ping a code, but if you put a plate in there, it pings a code. I know for a fact the Mitsubishi Pajeros and the Tritons and stuff, people used to do the workaround with the airflow meter, and you bridge two of the wires together and you put a little chip in there, and you do it that way, and that will alleviate the whole EGR problem. However, putting one of these in, especially with the 200 series, I don't honestly recommend it. If you put the catch cans in, a lot of the whole intake issue is alleviated and it doesn't happen to be that bad. The carbon just passes through the inlet manifold. And I've seen that on my own car. I've pulled my own car down and apart since having the catch can and doing the intake cleaner stuff on it. And it just passes through. It's just a light sort of misting in the inlet manifold. However, you blank them off and over time they can cause issues. The car could run for 12 months and no issue at all, and then all of a sudden you bring a light on. Now, do these holes, because people say, do these holes block up? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, because I've seen these installed in cars that haven't had an issue, but the hole doesn't ever clog up. It just passes through it exactly like an exhaust system. So you have a light coating through the hole, and then that's about it. And then it's obviously the face of it is black from where the port is. But where I have seen the issue is if you're under load or just coming off under load and it's going back to like an idle, and it's just, they ping a light. It's like the in-betweens of different loads and stuff. I don't know how exactly the EGRs, when they come on and off, because the newer common rails, they will open up a little bit of EGR and give it a little bit and then they'll close it off, and they do it at all different points throughout the range. So if you're idling, you'll be at like, I don't know, 40% EGR, so to speak. You give it a boot full, it'll close off and then it'll slowly open up again. But obviously it's not 100% open when the car's idling, because otherwise it's going to stall. They muck around with the EGR, and the newer the vehicle, the more and more they play with that, with the EGR, with the ECU and the EGR system. So just a simple blanking plate and putting it in there and saying you're not going to have an issue, I don't 100% think that's correct. And a lot of people do have issues. The newer the car, you have that issue. The next step that I'm going into is removing the EGR completely. Like, you not physically out of the car, because if you're removing the EGR system completely out of the car, for one, you're going to spend more in engineering and trying to re-engineer the bloody car and run all the coolant lines and everything to where they're meant to go, than what you would just leaving the EGR system in it and getting it removed via a tuning or a flash tune. I don't necessarily agree with that either. The cars, I know that some people say, oh, well, it's the EGR is the problem. EGR is a problem. It is a big problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem. However, removing it from a car, from an engine that was designed to actually have that in there, whether it's the right way or not, you are going to cause issues. I don't know where those issues will be, but you are going to cause issues. Whether that is it injects too much fuel, you end up doing a piston down the track, you score the bore, the thing runs too hot, you warp ahead. There's a heap of issues that you can cause from removing an EGR from where the ECU expects it to be there. If you flash it out properly, even then, some of the flash tunes don't work, so you can run into issues there as well. So I reckon you should just leave it. I recommend you put catch can or something in place to stop the oil vapor getting in, because it's the oil vapor and the moisture that carbon sticks to. If you don't have that in your manifold, that carbon and soot will pass through, not a problem at all, and you won't have the huge clagging up in the hats and all that sort of stuff. Because you think about it, right? Because people argue with me when it comes to this. They go, well, no, it clogs up. They clog up. You just got to remove them, get rid of them, and then you don't have the issue. Well, your exhaust system. How often, take aside the DPF systems, this is not including DPF systems, but how often in the life of your car do you have to pull off your exhaust system and clean it out? Oh, wait. Never. You never have to pull off your exhaust system and clean it out unless it has a DPF on it, right? And that is because the diesel soot does not stick to an exhaust system. You have that light initial coating, and once you have that light initial coating, it's fine. Start injecting oil into that exhaust system and watch what happens. If you have a turbo fail or something along those lines, you watch how much soot and everything starts sticking to the exhaust then. So I know it's a little bit of a different way of looking at it, but I'm trying to simplify it for people because they just have in their mind that, nah, it needs to be turned off. Yeah, in an ideal world, yeah, turning it off or not having an EGR system on the four-wheel drive would be fantastic. At the end of the day, you've got the environment that's turned into crap. So it's, yeah. Turning off the EGR system, I don't think is a viable option. However, if you have an older diesel, blanking plate's fine. Newer diesel, if you do want to go the blanking plate with a hole in it, you can. If you want to blank it off and get it retuned, you can. At the end of the day, it's up to you. You run the ramifications of being caught and getting done by the police or EPA or whatever. Most of the time, short of putting a testing thing on your car, they're not going to know because they don't know where the EGR pipes are on all different cars, and they're not going to physically check it. Because most of the time, these look like a gasket just sitting in there anyway. So you look at how thin that is. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. A lot of people ask me about this, so I thought I'd do a video on it, especially with my intake video. Some people have sent me messages and going, hey, why don't you just remove the EGR, get rid of the EGR system, you won't have a problem. Yes, I see your point of view with that. However, I'm not doing it. I've seen too many issues with cars that have had their EGRs removed and tampered with and stuff. They have issues. It's other issues somewhere else, whether that is turbo or it's actually blowing a motor up. So there is a lot of things. Most of the time it doesn't affect the turbo, but I have seen them affect the turbos because it's all by the way the wastegates and stuff work. A lot of the newer diesels are actually using a different type of turbo, so it's actually got the stepper motors and stuff on it, so it doesn't run the whole blow off wastegate sort of setups anymore. They run like an ECU stepper motor. Like the 200 series, for example, has 2 stepper motors on it, and it adjusts the amount of boost and pressure and back pressure and everything that it needs for that time. So that's why they sound a little bit different, and people have said they sound a bit fluttery. You don't have that normal like turbo blow off. It's more like a muffled sort of turbo noise, and yeah, that's why. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time, take care.